Welcome to Financial Strategies with Andrew Agemy in Connecticut and Daniel Agemy in Colorado.
Retire now, retire later. 5 things to do now for retirement, because nobody wants to retire from retiring. I'm Andrew Agemy.
And I'm Daniel Agemy, and you're listening to Financial Strategies. Today we're talking about 5 things to do now for retirement. In AAA, 5 things to do now for retirement is for people who are either in retirement or probably within about 10 years of retirement. If you can start with these things about 10 years before your ideal retirement is the best. If you're already in retirement and you haven't done these, well, you can always counter correct, right? You can always correct and get back on track. Right.
That's the idea, Daniel. This show today is for people, with maybe assets of $300,000 plus, up to millions of dollars. This is for people who are maybe you haven't even thought at all about retirement. You just know that you want to retire, and that's something on your bucket list, right? But you don't really know the first thing about retiring, or maybe you're close to retiring and you're going to retire in the next month or two, or maybe you've been in retirement for 5 or 10 years, right? We've got all kinds of things. So 5 things to do now for retirement, whether you're 10 years before retirement or in retirement, things that you can do to be able to help you, to be able to course correct, to be able to be on track, to be able to make sure that you don't have to retire from retiring. If you have to retire from retiring, go back to work because you want to, that's one thing. But going back to work because you have to, who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. Hopefully you retire once, and we're pros at helping people retire. We retire every day vicariously through our clients. And so we know what it's like to be 50 years old, 60 years old, retire, 70 years old, retire, 80 years old, retire, 90 years old, retire. And we pass that wisdom on to our clients. And that's what this show is all about, helping to educate you to be able to make smart decisions. Daniel, we got the top 5, right? We have 5 things to do now for retirement. So let's do like that David Letterman thing, right? And count them backwards, right? Start with number 5 and end up with number 1. What do you think?
That sounds good.
All right. So the first thing we have of the top 5 things to do now for retirement. Number 5, think about retirement. Think about your retirement lifestyle. What does retirement mean to you? A lot of times I talk to people and I ask them, what does your retirement look like? And they can't answer that. They don't know. They say things like, well, I want to travel. Well, then I say, well, where do you want to travel to? How do you want to travel? Do you want to travel to Europe? Do you want to go to the US? Do you want to do RV? Do you want to take the plane? Right? These kinds of things, right, Daniel?
Yeah, a lot of people cannot wait to retire. A lot of people do not really enjoy their jobs, where they've been in it so long, they're fed up with it. There are people who probably never will retire, don't want to retire because they really enjoy what they do, but that's not the majority of people. A lot of people have thought and anticipated, one day I'm going to retire. I'm not going to have a boss. I'm going to be able to do what I want to do. Well, start thinking about what that is, because it's important to think about that. You and I talk about all the time, AAA. Nobody really wants these funny little green pieces of paper. Nobody wants money, right? And now everybody in the audience is saying, yes, we want money. No, you don't. Nobody wants money. You either want what money can get you, what you perceive it will make you feel like, or what you want others to perceive of you, right?
Right.
And we're focused on that, what the money can do for you. You're trading in your money for lifestyle chips. And that's what retirement is. You've accumulated wealth, and now it's time to turn it in for lifestyle chips. What are those lifestyle chips? Is that traveling? Is that learning, going on and learning new hobbies, learning new languages, adventures? Is it traveling? Is it spending time with the grandkids? Is it gardening? Is it, volunteering? What is important to you in retirement?
Right. I spoke with one person who's had like 18 grandkids, and what he and his wife do is when the grandkids turn 18 years old, they take them on a trip anywhere in the world they want to go, right? So the 3 of them go on a trip together. And, not everybody is able to do that, but he was able to do that. And a lot of people can do that if they want, but they don't even think about that. Many times, people who don't yet have grandchildren don't think about how that changes their life. I mean, when I got grandchildren, the idea was I needed to now get to RV because my kids are not bringing my grandkids back to Connecticut. So if I want to see my grandkids, I got to go see them. And the easiest way for me to do that was in an RV, right? Yeah. And so, that's all good. But what does retirement lifestyle look like? And, if you caught or heard our Hawaii 5-0 show, if you didn't, go back and listen to that, because that's where we talk about thinking about retirement and defining retirement and what that looks like. And so that's a good thing that will help you think about retirement. But, as we talk about that, we're going to talk about and have you think about, what do you need to retire? What do you need to sit on the couch and watch TV, so to speak, right? And then what do you want to have in retirement? How much are you going to want to spend in retirement to be able to do what you want to do? We have one client that said, the wife says, I want to fly first class. Husband says, well, I don't want to fly first class. It's not worth it for me. So, I don't know how they're going to do it. But I said, well, maybe one of you sit in the back and one of you fly first class, right? But, what do you want to do? He wanted to buy a truck, not fly first class. She wants to fly first class. So, what are you going to want to do? Money's a tool to enhance relationships, to do what you want to do in retirement. And ideally, the most important thing in life is relationships. And if you can use your money to enhance those relationships, that's what it's all about. And it's my way of thinking. Now, if you just joined us, you're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy, because people don't know what people don't know. And what Financial Strategies is designed for is to educate people to be able to make smart, wise decisions, because an educated retiree is a happy and stress-free retiree. We've got a paper we'd like to give to you today to be able to help you with understanding these things that we're talking about. How much do I need to retire on, right? A lot of people ask that question. How can I retire? When can I retire? How much do I need to retire? Some, there's statistics that say, well, you need 70% of your pre-retirement income to retire on. Well, that's, who knows, right? Some people need 100%. Some people need more than 100%. Some people need 50%. But this paper, we'd love to put in your hands so that you can do a little bit of homework and figure it out. And, there's all kinds of ways to do it. Using this paper, you can do a top-down approach, a bottom-up approach to figuring out what you need for retirement. But whatever it is, you can have this paper for free by calling us at 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616 for your free copy of How Much Do I Need to Retire On? Today's topic on Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy is 5 things to do now for retirement. Well, Daniel, last time we were on the show, I was in Hawaii, you're in Colorado. I'm back in Connecticut, and you're still in Colorado.
You got a new backdrop. You got an ocean behind you again, but this time it's a picture of an ocean.
Where in the world's Andrew and where in the world is Daniel, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff, man.
Retirement lifestyle, right? Do you want to go to Hawaii? What do you want to do? And AAA, you were talking about how much of your current income are you going to need in retirement? And usually it's less. Sometimes it's more, because sometimes people can think bigger when they're not working, when they're not trying to save. So what do you want to do? And that's why we say 10 years out, right?
Right.
What we're talking today is ideally for 10 years out. You can do it and you can do it 5 years ahead of time. But ideally, if you're about 10 years from retirement, listen to what we're talking about, because you gave the example of somebody who was saying she wants to fly first class, he wants to buy a truck. The sooner you start doing what we're talking about, the better you can do both, or the better you can be in position for doing like what you said. It may not cost nearly as much to take the grandkid anywhere they want to go, if you're planning and thinking about it in advance, right? You need to plan and think about it in advance.
Right. That's the key.
And then you can create those income streams to get you there. So this retirement lifestyle, thinking about the retirement lifestyle, that's a big deal, because that gets you to the number. Not the number everybody thinks I'm worth X. The number you need that you can spend, that you want to spend, not that you need to spend, right?
Exactly.
You can come up with the number you need to spend to live, but retirement's not about living, it's about enjoying.
Right. Exactly. And helping other people enjoy and that kind of thing. And that's what we're talking about. So number 5 on the list of 5 things to do now for retirement is think about retirement. Define your retirement. What does retirement look like to you? How much money is it going to cost? It's not that you need $1 million or $2 million or $3 or $5 million or $10 million to retire on. What you're going to need is a paycheck, is a monthly income to come in to be able to take the place of your paycheck from your employer. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. What matters is how much you're going to be able to get from that. And at Agemy Financial Strategies, we're the best at creating the most amount of income for people. So, we have a lot of people that have lesser assets than others, but are getting a lot more income than those people with greater amounts. So the key is knowing, though, and understanding what that number is. What do you want to retire on? And
so your homework, right?
Yeah.
Homework.
Yeah. Well, that's
come up with 2 numbers. Come up with 2 numbers. The number that you think when you retire, the number you think you want to live on, or the number you think you need. Not that retirement assets, not accumulated assets, but then the monthly amount that you think you can have a good retirement on. And then if there was no limitations, think about what number you would spend. If somebody else was paying for first class, or somebody else was paying for your vacations, what would that monthly number be? Right. Exactly. Come up with 2 numbers.
Exactly. And then, one of the things that we've been offering on the show is the retirement risk report or retirement readiness report, depending where you are in preparation for retirement, whether you're in it or before it. And that's one of the things we do when we do retirement risk reports for people is we need those 2 numbers. What do you need for retirement and what do you want for retirement? One of the things we do is have a big conversation with people about what do they want. And it's amazing what comes out and the numbers that we end up putting on that and how they're able to achieve those things they never thought they were able to achieve. It's great. It's a great thing. If you want that retirement readiness report, as a listener to our show, we're now on 4 stations and as well as anywhere that you listen to podcasts, Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. We love to be able to help you and to do this report for free for being a radio show listener. It's a $3,000 value that you can have for free. You can have that retirement readiness report that helps you understand if you're ready for retirement and at what risk that you're going to be, that your current portfolio is for retirement. At the same time, we have a book we'd love to give you called Retirement Income Story by our friend David Scranton that tells and helps people to be able to be prepared for retirement and think about retirement so that you can be ready for it. We can have either of these things by calling us at 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616 for your free copy of the book, Retirement Income Story, or for Retirement Readiness Report. 800-725-7616, no obligation. Call now.
Time for some tough questions for these financial advisors. What makes Retirement Income Source different from other financial?
Our extensive experience generating investment income quickly so you can have financial peace of mind, navigate your retirement smoothly, and have more time to spend with family and doing the things you love. We gotta talk to these guys. We're done here.
You're locked on to Financial Strategy with Andrew and Daniel Agemy.
AAA. It's so funny. I was talking to somebody the other day who's kind of evaluating their assets and thinking, I'm not doing that. I'm doing all right, but I'm not like doing great. And we started going through her assets and adding them up. And she's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It adds up to over $1 million of assets. And I said, see, you're doing great. This isn't okay. This is good. This is great. I'm Daniel Agemy.
And I'm Andrew Agemy. You listen to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy, and I'm glad that you're joining us today. Our topic is 5 things to do now for retirement, whether you're 10 years away from retirement, 5 years away from retirement, a year before, a month before, or actually somewhere in retirement. And we're trying to help people to be able to make decisions on purpose, proactively, as opposed to reactively. very important thing. Daniel, when you're talking about that, two things come in my mind. Number one is the idea of people squirrel money away and they don't have any thought about it, right? And I have another situation where I went back 3 times with this person, and every time I went back, she found more money, right? And the question, one thing is having the money, the other is what you're going to do with money. The other thing that comes to my mind is one of our clients, came to us. So, he was interviewing different financial advisors, and he decided to come to us because we are able to specialize in income and get him all the income that he needed. And he came to us and he said, Andrew, I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire now, and I need this much income. And I said, man, can't you can you give us a year or two? Because, we can really do some nice things if you give us a year or two to be able to create, bountiful bundles of income for you on this. And he said, no, I'm retiring now. So, we were able to take that and be able to do very well for him. And retrospectively, he's been a client for 5, 6, 7 years now. And he's very happy in retirement, very happy with what we're doing for him. But the point is that the more time, if we got 5 years or even 10 years to help people start getting to that point, it's amazing the compounding effect that happens for that. And that's a good segue right into the number 4. So the number 5 of the 5 things was think about retirement. Number 4 of the 5 things is evaluate assets. Evaluate your assets, right, Daniel?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that was the whole point of the story, right? Evaluating the assets, because a lot of times you've accumulated more assets than you think, and you need to look at the different types of assets, because now you've picked your number. Now it's starting to see the income streams. So you have a social security at some point in time, right? Most people, at least. You have some real estate, some investment real estate that's going to be paying you some assets. You have maybe a pension. So you start looking at these things, and the number of assets isn't as important as what they're starting to generate for you in income streams, right? Mm-hmm. We like to use a three-legged stool approach, right? Right. Where you have at least 3 legs, 3 income streams at least, right? Mm-hmm. And those are typically made up of a pension, Social Security, and then your retirement savings. Now, some people don't have pensions, so they need more retirement savings. Right. And some people like to add stuff like real estate. They invest in real estate, and then that's going to create an income stream for them in the future. Right. Exactly. And, these streams of income, this 3-legged stool, having pensions, having Social Security, having your retirement assets. And then within your retirement assets, there's all different streams that you can get in there that will do different things in different ways to be able to help you keep up with inflation and keep up with taxation, right? The problem with the pension, generally speaking, is that it doesn't change. It's generally speaking the same amount of money that you get all the time. And most pensions don't have cost of living adjustments on them. Social Security's got a cost of living adjustment on it, but it's laughable because usually, except for the past, like last year, went up like 9%. But in the past, it's got like a 2%, 2.5% cost of living average on it, which and the egregious thing about Social Security is that whenever they give you a raise, many times they raise your Medicare payment too to take away the raise they gave you. So that's where it's so important that you have other income, have other monies that you can create income for. And when we're talking about income, we're talking about true income, dividends and interest, right? Where money you can spend. Money you can spend. You're living off the interest, not off the principal. And, if anybody knows anything about money, you don't want to live off the principal. You don't want to withdraw money, because if you withdraw money from your account, you could run out of money. And that's the number one fear retirees have, is running out of money before they run out of life. And that's the number one mistake they make is taking from principal rather than taking from interest or dividends from that standpoint. And so this is why you have to evaluate your monies, because if you have the right evaluation, you have the right situation, you can create that 3-legged stool for yourself. Well, one of the things that helps people be able to understand this in evaluating these things is a retirement readiness report.
And a retirement readiness report is something, we have a paper we'd like to give you today that tells you what the retirement readiness report is all about. Another word for it is retirement risk report. Does two things, right? What's your risk for retirement? Are you ready for retirement? This paper will help you be able to understand how we look at your taxes, we look at your dividends and interest that, if any, that you have from your current account, where your income is coming from, where it will be, how much you need, how much you want for retirement. And on a simple one-page form, it has a lot of information that's behind it, but it's a very simple thing to read and to understand and be able to see if you're ready for retirement. And it helps you to evaluate the risk of your assets and the income from your assets and how you'll stand in retirement. You can have that paper for free. It's called Retirement Readiness Report, Retirement Risk Report. Ask for it by name, RRR, and calling us at 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616. You're listening to Financial Strategies with father-son team of Andrew and Daniel Agemy. And today's topic is 5 things you need to know now for retirement. So the number 5 was thinking about retirement and what your retirement looks like to you. Number 4 is evaluating your assets, having some income stream where your assets create income streams. Will your assets be there? Right, Daniel? Getting a second opinion on assets is very important because, some people keep doing the same things the same way they always done things. And if their money is invested the way it was 15 years ago today, and they're getting ready to retire today, that could create a problem. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'd like to add 2 things to that. One is hopping back to the story you told about the guy who wanted to retire. And you said, can I have a year? Can I have 2 years? And he said, no, I'm retiring. Now, I think he's been a client for about 7 years, but what we were able to do is use that 7 years just like he wasn't retired.
Right.
So we got him set up in a way where it was accumulating for those 7 years, and then we kind of redid everything like we had 7 years, and it increased his income by clse to 40%.
Wasn't that cool? That was great.
And you could say, well, 40% is amazing. And it is. And most people have not got 40% increases of income over the last 7 years. And you said Social Security had this nice increase of 7 or 8% just recently. But we have to think that from 2019 until today, your purchasing power has been devalued by about 40%.
Yeah.
So if you didn't get a 40% increase, 7 or 8 sounds nice, but it's not anywhere close to what your purchasing power was devalued by. So when you're talking about pensions and you're talking about Social Security and you're talking about these things, you have to be really careful, because when we use the money printer, when the governments are debasing currencies like they did between 2019 and today, what ends up happening is you don't have the same purchasing power. And so you need to be observant of that when you're evaluating your assets and your income streams. You have things that are able to increase that purchasing power. And that's why we're talking about 10 years in advance, because you can really get yourself set up in a wonderful spot for that. And then there's one thing that really can help you with that purchasing power, which is our number 3, right? AAA, number 3, most important thing.
Are you ready to move on to number 3?
If you are.
No, I'm not quite ready, right? Because number 4 is evaluating assets, right? And part of that, right on line with what you're doing there, Daniel, is to talk about how important it is to say ahead of inflation, ahead of taxation, right? Is for the inflation aspect is, a true specialist in retirement income is going to be able to give you double-digit increases in your retirement income, right? We've seen that happen. Right? In the past 2-3 years, our clients have, with that company, like you're talking about that guy that's been our client for 7 years, he took a jump about 40% in 1 year. But we're typically seeing anywhere between 10%, 20, 30% increase in retirement income. Now, who out there would not want their boss to give them a 10% raise in their paycheck? Well, that's what we're talking about.
That's how you have to think about it. That's exactly how you have to think about it.
A 10% raise in your retirement income paycheck. And
Yep.
and if you're not working with somebody that's giving you that kind of raise, you're working with the wrong person. I'll tell you that right now. If you need money in retirement, I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know you need money in retirement because they got Social Security, they got pensions, and that's enough for them to live on. They don't need their assets, right? Well, even if they don't need their assets, they have 401k IRA, they're going to have to take money out. So do you want to take it out of the principal or do you want to take it out of dividends and interest when you're doing your required minimum distribution? Right. So if you're not taking out of dividends and interest, you're with the wrong person. You got to get a second opinion on what's happening. And I mean a true second opinion, not like the one my wife had when she had a kidney stone, where we went to the doctor for a second opinion. And the doctor says, oh, whatever your first doctor said, that's what you should do. That's no second opinion. It's reevaluating and seeing if you have cancer in your retirement portfolio. And if so, at what stage is it and can anything be done about it? Well, so evaluating your assets is a very important thing when you're thinking about and that you need to do for retirement, whether you're 10 years from retirement, 5 years from retirement, in retirement, or whatever. You need to always be evaluating and course correcting to get the most bang for your buck and to be able to help you to be able to retire and stay retired. You're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is 5 things to do now for retirement. We're going to have to take a break, but before we do, we'd like to give you a couple things. We have a we have a book called The Retirement Income Storybook by our friend David Scranton. It goes through the retirement income and the story behind that and why income is so key to retirement planning and to retirement strategies. We also have the Retirement Readiness Report, or Retirement Risk Report, that we will do for you because you're a loyal listener of the show or even listening to it first time. This is a report that's a $3,000 value. It costs us, if we were charging you for this, we'd have to charge you $3,000 to do this report because of the time that's involved in doing it. But at the end of the report, it's something that you get for free, and you're going to have an education. You're going to get value added to your life, be able to understand how ready you are for retirement. Can you retire? And when can you retire? That's what this thing is going to be able to help you do. You can have that for free or the book by calling us 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616 for your free copy of the book or your retirement readiness report. Ask for it by name, RRR. 800-725-7616. We'll be right back after this.
Do you have any questions for me about retirement income source?
I just want to make sure I can invest well enough to have enough income, enjoy my retirement.
We build a custom retirement plan based around your income and goals.
How do I know I can trust you?
Building trust does take time, but our investment advisory arm is comprised of fiduciaries, which means our obligation is to you, so you can enjoy your retirement with a little more income stability.
I'm in.
That's 2 out of 3.
This is Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy.
So Daniel, you know the story about your great aunt, my aunt, and she's a businesswoman extraordinaire. And one of the things that she would say is that every high school should have a government class, and the first lesson in the government class is the government has no money, because the government doesn't have any money. And how do they get money? By taxing us, right? And then what do they do with the money? Well, they spend it like a drunken sailor. Well, the question is, and the big deal is that right, that every American has the right to pay as little tax as legally possible. I'm Andrew Agemy.
And I'm Daniel Agemy, and you're listening to Financial Strategies. Today, we're talking about 5 things to do now for retirement. And AAA, if people take these things to heart, they can make a huge impact on their retirement. We're suggesting implementing these about 10 years before retirement. Now, if you're already in retirement, you can still implement them. If it's 5 years, you can still implement them. But if you can do this 10 years ahead of time, you're going to have a great retirement.
Exactly. And we're talking about people with portfolios of $300,000 and more, right? If you have less than that, there's not a whole lot that you can do with that, right? But with $300,000 and more, well, now you can start getting into some good stuff. And number 5 of the 5 is counting down. Think about retirement. Number 4 of the 5 is evaluate your assets. Get a second opinion. Retirement readiness report. Number 3 is tax planning, right? We started the show talk about taxes, tax planning. Every American's right to pay as little tax as legally possible. And that's what we want to do. That's why we started Connecticut Sound Tax Group, to be able to help us do tax planning and tax preparation for people. Because typically when people are getting their taxes done, all that's going on is preparation, right? Bean counting. But you need some tax planning to be able to make sure you pay as little tax. I've seen too many people pay thousands of dollars in taxes that they don't need to spend if they had thought ahead and been proactive on that front. So tax planning is one of the things that you can do when you're looking ahead, right? 10 years before, 5 years before, in retirement, you always need to be making sure you're paying as little tax as legally possible. And you know what the great news is? Right now, and for limited time, taxes are on sale. 2026 taxes are going to go back to what they were. My understanding is currently they're going to go back to what they were in 2017. And, if that's the case, that means that the 12% bracket is going to 15%, the 22% bracket is going to go to 25% bracket, 24% bracket is going to go to 28% bracket, so on and so forth, right? So it's imperative to be able to look at taxes. And not only are taxes on sale right now because of the tax code, but if you're married, taxes are on sale right now. Because you see, when one of you passes away, your taxes are going to increase, because you can go from the married filing jointly to the single. And that is a higher bracket. So making sure that taxes are handled properly is very important.
Yeah, it's huge. I think this one's overlooked all the time. And it's not, some people will be like, oh, well, I like what the government's doing. I like these wars that they're funding. I like how my roads are paved. I like all these kinds of things. So I'm fine with paying. Actually, I'll even pay extra money in taxes. So if that's you, that's okay. But these are more than just paying less taxes than what you need to. This is based on your goals, based on your retirement planning, based on your legacy, based on what you care about, how you use your assets to make it most efficient so you have the most money going to the things you care about most. So it's not necessarily paying less in taxes, but what it's doing is it's setting you up for a more robust portfolio, more robust retirement that will also allow you to have more longevity in your retirement. You don't have to worry about running out. And then what it'll also do is allow some people want the next generation or the next generation to get their assets. Maybe that's giving it to them tax-free. Maybe it's so your spouse can live tax-free. Maybe it's these kinds of things. So it doesn't necessarily mean paying less money in taxes right now. What it's doing, what we're talking about, is getting you set up for your ideal retirement. And that's why number 5 is so important. Your retirement lifestyle. What do you want that to look? What's important to you? Is it donating to charities? Is that your goal for your assets when you pass away? Because that's totally different strategy than if you want your kids or your grandkids or your great grandkids to get an inheritance. And that's different than if you just want to spend it all yourself. So we look at each of these things, and the tax strategies really wrap up into what your goal is for your retirement.
Right, exactly. You're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is 5 things to do now for retirement, whether that's 5 years before retirement, 10 years before retirement, just before retirement, or in retirement. This all acts together. Well, we have a paper that goes along with our today's show. And number 5 of those things is think about retirement. What do you need? What do you want for retirement? This paper, How Much Do I Need to Retire On, is something that will be very informative informational to you, and being able to also be able to help you open up new perspectives as you think about retirement and what that looks like to you. We'd love to put this in your hand for free by calling us at 800-725-7616 for your free copy. How much do I need to retire on? 800-725-7616. Listen, Financial Strategies. Today's topic is 5 things to do now for retirement. And first thing is think about retirement. Second thing is evaluate assets. Third thing is tax planning. Part of tax planning is the idea of maxing out your 401k, 403b, solo 401ks, getting as much tax advantage as you can right at this point. But you have to combine that with thinking ahead to what the tax is going to be later at the same time. So it's not a science, it's an art. It's an art to do tax planning properly, to pay as little as possible. Daniel, this show is going rapidly. And, we've still got a couple more points to go. Do you have anything to say on the tax?
Yeah, the tax, it's all those things you said. Some people want to defer tax. Some people want to make money tax free. Some people, right? It depends on it depends if you have a pension, what your Social Security. So we don't believe in cookie cutter approaches. There's too many industries. There's too many people in our industry that firms in our industry that believe cookie cutter and it's just same fits all. Maybe they tweak it a tiny bit. This really depends on your goals. So you got to, number 5, you got to think about the retirement lifestyle, what you want that to look like, and then evaluating the assets. Where's the income coming from? Because it totally changes the tax situation where the income's coming from. So I think if people want to know more about that, they can get one of these papers. They can do the retirement risk report and get a better idea of how the taxation works on their particular situation. But I think we can move on to number 2.
All right. Number 2, the drum roll. Okay. Consider rolling over your 401k. If you're 59 and a half, the government takes the handcuffs off you and says, okay, you can now roll your money over. You can still be working and roll your money over. Now, 99% of companies allow for this, and the government saw with 2000 and what happened in 2000 with the different things like Enron and various other things. The government saw that they need to give people the option to rolling their monies out of their 401k plans into other options that are available. Because as many options as your 401k plan may give to you, guess what? It's minuscule in regard to all the options that are out there for you. And not only that, but it's generally speaking, the aggressive column of all investments, being the aggressive side. Some kind of mutual fund, which mutual funds are not the best, they're just easy. And so 401k plans are built for young people to build their assets, to accumulate money. 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, maybe some 50-year-olds, but later 50s, 60s, they're not designed for those people, for you, for maturing people. Because their assets are built for younger people to accumulate, to grow their monies. And if you've been in a 401k for very long, or 457, 403b, you understand that because you probably have accumulated a lot of assets that way. But is that really the way that you want to continue going from that standpoint? And when you turn 59 and a half, most companies allow you the option to be able to roll your monies out, still contribute to your 401k, take advantage of those pre-tax asset accumulation, but allow you to invest your bulk of your monies in the universe of other financial vehicles that are out there.
Yeah, basically it goes from a kind of kid approach where you're just stuffing as much away. You're not thinking about it. You're not watching it, right? Into the adult approach where you're looking at how you can create more income streams. You can protect what you've built up, right? Mm-hmm. Because even though there's bond funds and there's this fund and there's that fund, they're all basically the same strategy, because a bond fund is basically a company that owns bonds, which makes it a stock or makes it an equity again, right? And so even though there's bond options, you lose the 2 most important things of why people invest in bonds, right? You lose the maturity date, which is I'm going to own this bond for 2 years and then I'm going to get my principal back, and the coupon. I know that this has a 6% coupon. So on my $10,000, I'm going to collect $600 every year. It doesn't matter if the bond goes up or down in value. I'm going to get my $600. Those two guarantees are what make bonds safe. You know when you're getting your principal back, and you know how much they're going to pay you. And when you start putting it in funds, though, that you got rid of, why would you do that?
Because you don't know what you don't know. That's why you do that, right? That's why you do that. Exactly. You got it, Daniel. Well, we've been counting down 5 things to do now for retirement. And the first one being think about retirement. Second one, or excuse me, number 5 is think about retirement. Number 4 is evaluate assets. Number 3 is tax planning. Number 2 is consider rolling over your 401k if you're 59 and a half or older. And number 1, we're going to go to after our break. But before we go to break, we'd love to put in your hand the book, Retirement Income Story, which is giving you an idea about what the retirement income, the story of retirement and how you can be prepared for retirement, by our friend and author David Scranton, with a lot of initials after his name and whatnot, CLU, CFHC, CFP, et cetera, and so forth, CFA even. But we'd love to put that in your hand. We'd love to give you that retirement risk report, but you tell us, first 5 callers, first-time callers, 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616, and we'll be right back after this.
Important financial question. Are you feeling confident that you have enough money saved to enjoy a stress-free retirement?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
That's where Retirement Income Source's investment advisory arm comes in. We exist to help you invest your money smartly.
I'm struggling to accept my retirement without a steady paycheck. So can you help me invest into a profitable revenue plan?
Absolutely. We have top advisors nationwide who have a fiduciary obligation to you, helping you generate retirement income.
This is Financial Strategy with Andrew and Daniel Agemy.
So Daniel, very recently, Betty and Harry came in to do a retirement readiness report and retirement risk report on their finances. And, I was talking to them about, what's going on. And they said that they needed to get, that they spend in about $250,000 a year, and they need to get that out of their investments. But, last year they took $200,000 out. They didn't get it from interest and dividends. They took it out. And Betty said, "Hey, Andrew, I'm losing money. I took $200,000 out of my principal. I'm losing money. I know there must be a better way than what I'm doing with this." I'm Andrew Agemy.
And I'm Daniel Agemy, and you're listening to Financial Strategies. Today, we're talking about 5 things to do now for retirement. In AAA, we hear that kind of stuff all the time. We hear people say, I don't know how to retire. How much do I need to retire? Everyone says it in a little bit different way, but they're expressing the same thing. We get a lot of people who come in and they want us to say, yeah, you're okay the way you are, right?
Right.
You're okay the way you are. That's what they want us to say, but we have to be honest.
Because we're fiduciaries.
We've been doing this a long time, and we've seen what works. And we've seen what doesn't work. And that's why we're doing this show today. We put together these 5 things to do now for retirement. And this is with anticipation of about 10 years, anticipation of retirement with about 10 years. Now, they still work if it's 5 years. They still work if you're in retirement, but they work best if you can do this about 10 years before you're planning to retire.
Right, exactly. And whether, you have $300,000 or you have more than that, that's the key, right? That's kind of like where we need to be looking with this. And Daniel, like you said, we've seen these principles work. We've seen these things that we're saying this, and we're not just giving blanket, second opinions. Oh, whatever your guy doing for you looks good. No, we're being honest because we're fiduciaries, and we don't have to do this. I mean, I could retire tomorrow. You know this, Daniel. I could retire tomorrow. I'm doing this because I want others to be able to retire tomorrow as well. I am on a mission to be able to help people be good stewards of what they have, and that's why we're doing this. So the 5 things that we've been talking about are: number 5 is think about retirement, prepare for it. Number 4 is evaluate your assets, get a second opinion or retirement risk report. Number 3 is do some tax planning. Number 4, oh boy, I'm messing this up. Let's try this again. I'm sorry. I'm switching. Number 5 is think about retirement, Number 4, evaluate assets. Counting down. Number 3 is tax planning. Number 2 is consider rolling over your 401k into an IRA without taxation or penalties. And number 1, drum roll please, the number 1 thing to take into consideration now for retirement is switching from an accumulation mindset to distribution mindset. That's the number 1 mistake that retirees make, is switching from an accumulation mindset to a distribution mindset at the proper time. Too many times they put it off until it's too late, when they've lost money or when whatever the case may be. And when you're thinking about that 10 years before retirement, 5 years before retirement, that's going to put you in a better shape, especially if the market should drop again, because the market's higher than the market has ever been right now. And guess what? Market goes up, down, and sideways. It goes 3 directions. And it goes down and sideways more often than it goes up. Right, Daniel?
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple other ways to say that for so maybe it sticks in people's heads, right?
Yeah.
You could go from a purpose mindset to or from a performance mindset, because that's usually how 401ks are geared. That's how most advisors do, because most advisors are aggressive by nature, to a purpose oriented. What did I save this money for? Did I save this money just because I hope it goes up forever? I can go knock on my neighbor's door and say, look at my 401k.
Yeah.
I have $3 million. Or did you do it so you can do the things you actually want to do in retirement, right? Which did you save that money for? Or the way I like to do it is, are you speculating or are you investing?
Right.
And our definition of investment is it has to pay you. Your assets have to pay you to be an investment. Otherwise, it's speculation, because you're hoping that it goes up in value, as opposed to it's paying you an income you can use. It's paying you money, right? That you can turn into lifestyle chips. And you don't have to worry about running out of money, because it's a renewable resource. These assets continue to pay you, and you collect that income, and you get to do whatever you want with it. You can reinvest it. You can spend it. You can give it away, whatever you'd like.
Exactly. What I think about, Daniel, when we're comparing these two, right? How many people in our listening audience had a muscle car when they, were young, right? Because they were going after performance, and then they started having a family, and they went and they got the minivan and, some other things to take care of the purpose that they had. And now maybe, on this side, when they're in approaching retirement, maybe they're going back to the muscle cars because they built up their assets and the question is, how is that going to actually perform for them, when it's time to be able to start getting that income? And that's the key, is to make sure that they're that's the number 1 thing to do now in retirement, is to be able to switch from an accumulation mindset to distribution mindset. And part of doing that is understanding if you're ready for retirement. And we have a paper that we'd like to give you called the Retirement Readiness Report, Retirement Risk Report. This paper is a short report, about 1.5 pages, that will explain to you what performing a retirement risk report on your assets would actually do for you and how it works. We'd love to put this in your hands from that standpoint, so that you can be able to get a second opinion, if you'd like, or at least being able to understand your retirement from where it stands right now, right? 800-725-7616 for your free copy, the Retirement Readiness Report, Retirement Risk Report paper. Have 800-725-7616. Call now. Today's topic is 5 things to do now for retirement. You listen to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy, because people don't know what people don't know. And a lot of people don't know that there's things that you need to do before retirement. And a lot of people don't understand that you need to switch from an accumulation mindset, because your 401ks and IRAs and things so many times are designed for growth, building your assets. But when you're in retirement, if it's not set up so that you can receive dividends and interest, chances are you're going to be taking from principal. And your parents probably taught you, don't take from principal, take from interest, take from dividends. And that's why it's important to switch from performance to purpose base when it comes to retirement.
Yeah. Everything we've talked about today has to do with taking your assets and making sure that they're set up to sustain your retirement, to sustain your lifestyle in retirement. And this is the biggest one. This is the most important one, because you can do all these other things, although it is a little difficult to do all these other things and not make this change.
Right.
But you can do all these things, but if you're not set up to collect that retirement income check, right? Once you retire, you've got two choices. Well, I guess you have three. One is you could do nothing and not have any retirement income and go be destitute on the street.
Yeah.
Nobody really does that. But the next is you can leave the stuff the way it is and start spending your assets. And we see people all the time that think about it in this term, because they'll say, I have X amount of money. I have $1 million. So if I have a life expectancy of 20 years, then I'm going to divide that $1 million by 20. And then that is how long. And people do this all the time. It's uncanny how much people do this. Whereas what we try to help people to do is switch their mindset to say, I have that $1 million. How much income can I generate from that? And if you go back to number 5, what your retirement looks like, and you're starting 10 years early, then you say, well, if I need, $55,000 a year, after Social Security, after my pension, after whatever, and you've got that $1 million of retirement savings, well, you can turn that into a $60,000 income stream, and you've got an extra $5,000 a year for, instead of the wants,
Right.
to do what's possible. That's a $5,000 vacation. You can give it away. You can do whatever, or you can reinvest it to increase. So there's a lot of optionality that comes from changing from that speculation, hope mentality to a pay me mentality.
Exactly. And too many times people are not in the pay me mentality. Too many times they're in, like you say, Daniel, the speculation, right? They've been sold a story that, stocks outperform everything over time. And that, stocks may be a piece of what is helps that happen, but stocks in and of themselves, especially the key is that you need money to retire on. If you just leave the money and let it go, that's where we see those mountain charts where, $1,000 in 1929 becomes, tens of millions of dollars today, right? But that's if you haven't never touched it. That's well over, that's 100 years roughly ago. But who is going, that's for an institution maybe, but for individuals, people don't do that, right? People need the money. Maybe they live 30, 40 years and then they need it for retirement. So you have to do things differently. Speculation over 100-year period of time, leaving it solely in the market, that doesn't work for individuals. You need a better, more truistic, a more diversified approach with streams of income to be able to give you what you need to live in and for retirement, to make sure that you don't outlive your money, so you can have the best retirement that you could possibly have, having more than enough money to live until the day you die.
Purple, it makes me think of that analogy, which I've never heard you use before, which I think is so good, because you talked about when you're young, you go and you buy that Mustang, that performance car, that Camaro that's kind of probably falling apart, and you try to fix it up. It's what's available. You put the parts on it that are available. It's fun. It's cool. It's fast, but it's not like after you've built up your assets and now you're mature, you have some assets, and you go buy a muscle car. And now the muscle cars you just drive on the weekends or when it's nice weather. You have your regular car. You have your purpose put together. But now this is exactly what you want. This is true performance. Maybe now it's a Porsche. Maybe it's a muscle car you built, right? Maybe it's some other kind of car, but it's exactly what you want, and it really has the performance. And that's what we're talking about. Once you get that purpose together, you can add that little performance piece into there, but it's true performance. It's blow your head, right? It's blow your mind type performance, but it can be because it's specific and because you've already taken care of the purpose. Just like the difference between when you're 17 and you bought your Camaro or your Mustang compared to when you're 65 and you're building the exact car, the exact muscle car that you want to drive and take to shows on the weekends.
Right. Exactly. Good point, Daniel. And so, count down 5 things to do now for retirement, whether you're in or close to retirement. Think about retirement. What does it look like to you? Evaluate your assets, get that second opinion, do some tax planning all along the way so that you pay as little tax as legally possible. Consider rolling over your 401k into an IRA so that can work actually harder for you than what it is currently. And the number one thing is to switch from accumulation mindset to distribution mindset, reducing your risk and increasing your purpose so that you can have not run out of money before you run out of life. You've been listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy, and because people don't know what people don't know. And the egregious thing is when people don't want to know what they don't know. But we hope today that you've been educated. We know you've been educated, and we know that an educated retiree is a happy and stress-free retiree. We have a book that we love to give you before we go, Retirement Income Story by David Scranton, and telling you, explaining different things, how you can make sure that you have and switch from a accumulation to distribution mindset in the right time, and what you need to do to be able to do that, more specific than what we're able to go through today, as well as a retirement risk report that we perform for you for free. It's a $3,000 value that we would do for our radio listeners for free to be able to help you understand how your taxes look, how your income looks, and if you'll be prepared for retirement when you want to retire. All these for free. For the next 5 first-time callers, 800-725-7616. 800-725-7616. Call them now.